Earlier this month, the bloc made a bold move. It slapped tariffs on Chinese EVs, electric vehicles.
Why is NIO taking 3 times longer than Tesla to pay its bills in China? For years, Tesla has consistently paid its suppliers within 100 days. However, some famous EV manufacturers are delaying their payments more and more, leaving suppliers increasingly desperate. What's the reason behind this? Over the years, things have taken a turn for the worst. Despite some Western media outlets claiming Tesla's payment delays have stretched to 4 or 5 months, new data suggests an even more alarming trend. Chinese media outlets are saying this: there is a lot of cost pressure on these companies. They spend a lot of money, especially NIO, on research and development for new vehicles. They keep bringing out many different models. People often criticize Tesla for not having enough models. They mostly stick to just 2 cars. But one reason Tesla do this is to reduce their spending. NIO and Xpeng have so many models, especially NIO, that it's hard to keep track of them all. NIO and Xpeng keep bringing out new models all the time. They feel they need to do this, but it costs a lot of money. Because of this, NIO and Xpeng are under a lot of financial strain. Neither company has ever made a profit. They have only made losses. By the end of 2023, NIO was taking 300 days to pay its bills to suppliers, and Xpeng was taking 221 days. Let's look at the data from 2021. Back then, NIO took 197 days to pay its bills, and Xpeng took 179 days. Meanwhile, NIO is building battery swapping stations all over China and even in Europe. Many experts say this is a mistake. They believe it's a cost NIO will never recover, and it won't catch on. Swapping stations aren't really needed. With fast charging, cars can be charged in about 10 minutes, making swapping stations unnecessary. It won't be a big advantage to have a swapping station that takes 4 or 5 minutes. The time it takes for some Chinese EV manufacturers to pay their suppliers has been going up. Xpeng is in a tough spot, but they recently got a big investment. Volkswagen invested nearly $1 billion for a 5% ownership stake in the company. Xpeng will be manufacturing a lot of Volkswagen vehicles in China under a contract. Volkswagen claims its technology share, saying they will be using Xpeng's platform. However, the platform includes the car's main components: the motors, the battery, and the main structure. Everything else is just extra. Xpeng will also use its software in Volkswagen's cars. The software is just a major part of the car's costs. So basically, Xpeng will be making Volkswagen's vehicles in the future, which means Volkswagen will have some good cars. By the end of last year, Xpeng was taking 221 days to pay its vendors. They were under a lot of financial pressure. The CEO of Xpeng described the Chinese auto market as a bloodbath. He even emailed employees calling it a bloodbath. The CEO of Xpeng said they would have to fire some employees due to the financial constraints. This is understandable given the circumstances. In comparison, Tesla takes 101 days to pay its suppliers in China. This time frame has remained stable, meaning Tesla pays its suppliers in about 3 months. This has been Tesla's standard practice for as long as it's operated in China. The longer payment cycles of NIO, Xpeng, and possibly other manufacturers, including Li, who recently fired 15% of their staff across China. It shows the pressures automakers are facing in an economy with sluggish growth. In fact, the economy isn't just sluggish, it's not growing at all this year, and consumer sentiment is low. This has led to reduced demand for EVs. The once fast-growing market is now facing price wars and tight profit margins. However, some of this is not true. It's incorrect to say EV sales aren't growing in China. This year, EV sales in China have increased by about 40%, which is a huge growth. A recent report showed that 47% of all cars sold in May in China were EVs. Electric vehicle sales in China have seen tremendous growth, not just growth. It's been insane. However, there are indeed issues with price wars and tight profit margins. Profit margins are being squeezed as companies cut prices, resulting in less revenue. Tesla is tired of this race to the bottom and is instead focusing on robo-taxis, autonomous driving and robotics. For manufacturers, these price cuts mean less money coming in, making it harder to pay their suppliers on time. This has started to affect auto suppliers in China, especially the smaller ones who can't absorb the delay. The EV sector might face a chaotic situation due to these delayed payments and financial pressures. Consolidation could lead to suppliers going to bankruptcy, causing potential production problems for automakers. If you think it's unlikely for Chinese suppliers to go bankrupt, well, think again. There are currently 91 EV manufacturers in China, and the government believes many should merge. Having so many manufacturers isn't sustainable and isn't a good idea. Chinese experts and CEOs are predicting that many of these brands will vanish. Recently, Hi-Fi, a well-known company in China, one of the most prestigious EV brands, went bankrupt recently. They used to sell cars with an average price of around $80,000, and they were outselling premium makers like Mercedes-Benz and Porsche in their sector. They stopped paying suppliers, halted car production, and had to lay off their staff. Recently, an American conglomerate stepped in and invested $1 billion to save the company, for reasons that aren't entirely clear. Chinese EV industry was booming in 2021 and 2022, but makers started encountering challenges. Experts claim there's weak demand now, but the truth is the demand isn't actually weak. There are just too many car manufacturers making too many cars in the segment. The market pie is still growing, but with more players. Even legacy automakers are jumping into EVs seriously and producing a lot of them. So while the pie is expanding, it's not a zero-sum game. The number of brands making EVs has grown a lot. Let's look at the growth rates for NIO and Xpeng. From 2021 to 2023, NIO delivered 91,000, 122,000 and 160,000 vehicles, with year-on-year growth rates of 110%, 34% and 30% respectively. So NIO did grow during that time, but not as fast as expected. Xpeng delivered 98,000 vehicles in 2021, then 121,000 and finally 141,000. Their growth rates were 23%, 17% and 17% respectively. As for their cash at the end of 2023, NIO reported having about 7.9 billion in cash, while Xpeng had around 6.9 billion. Famous Chinese EV brands are having trouble paying their bills for a few reasons. One big issue is that the EV market in China is growing really fast, so there's a lot of competition among manufacturers. With so many brands making EVs, it's becoming really crowded. This is hurting their profits and their ability to manage their money effectively. In addition, some EV companies have put a lot of effort into growing their product offerings and infrastructure. This includes setting up charging stations and expanding their factories. These expansions need a lot of money, which can stretch their finances thin. Furthermore, even though EV brands have seen a lot of growth in vehicle sales, many still struggle to make a profit. The cost of research and development are high, and they also face pressure from aggressive pricing strategies in the market. These challenges continue to affect their financial stability. To address these challenges, Chinese EV brands are exploring various strategies. Some are more focused on improving their operational efficiency, reducing costs and optimizing their product offerings. Others are expanding their presence in international markets, where there is less competition and more favorable regulatory environments. So the rapid expansion of the EV market in China has created challenges for even the most famous Chinese EV brands. Intense competition, high investments in infrastructure and research and economic factors have affected their profitability and cash flow. However, by adopting these challenges and exploring new strategies, these companies can ensure their long-term success and continue to play a significant role in the global EV market. So share your thoughts on this with us in the comments below, and also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Until next time, see you later.